Hey, welcome back to Grit Gym. The blank wall behind me today because we're kind of coming through with a hodgepodge show today. The stand is at the gym. I am not at the gym. I'm in the office anyway. And the office is going through some reconstruction. But we got the wall painted. We just haven't hung the shelves and hung up all the artwork in the background. But this is good. I'm glad that you guys are here. It is... I still got my glasses on. Wednesday. What is today? Wednesday the 18th? Wednesday the 18th of April. God, this year is flying by. A few different things. Okay, interesting thing. Some people have been asking me, like, why... Hey, you're back. But interesting thing. Some people have been asking me about why do I have these glasses? Why are they tinted? Also, if you stay with us on Instagram, it's at @grit_coach for Adam Rees personally. If you just go to the search engine and you grab and you type in Adam Rees, REES, it'll pop up. But you can follow me over there. But we got these Illumable things to put in the toilet, and really they just sit on the side. But it's like a nightlight inside the bowl of the toilet. And people have been asking me, like, why would you want to what's the point? And the reason is the light that touches your eyes. So I don't know if these things work or not. See how they're just a little bit tinted. This isn't the topic of the show today, but enough people have been asking me about this that I don't know about a lot, but I don't know what constitutes a lot. Do you see how they're tinted just a little bit? Okay, so they're tinted just a little bit so that they filter out some of the blue light that is hitting your eye all day long. And there's conflicting stuff out there on the internet if you search around. So the thing for me, whether this works or not, it does not hurt me to have these on while I work. So if the blue light is affecting my eye, hopefully this is helping. If it's not affecting my eye, it's like prayer. It's not going to hurt anybody, right? So only good things can come about it, right? They're not very expensive. I think I paid like 10 or 20 bucks for these, and that's it. And the Illumable thing is a similar deal. So if the light, the way that our circadian rhythm works and is based off of light, 200 years ago, I don't really know when Thomas Edison came up with the light bulb, but I'm pretty sure it was less than 200 years ago. So let's go back 500 years just to make absolute sure that I don't screw up the dates. So let's say 500 years ago, you had fire, you had candles, maybe some other forms of light that, I don't know, and then you had the sun that was going to provide daylight, right? So the majority of our existence, we have been using that as our light source, and then all of a sudden we have light bulbs that are around us all the time. So it kind of can mess with our circadian rhythm just a little bit, and our body isn't stupid. So it's not like, if we turn the lights on into the bathroom before we go to bed, we're going to have worse sleep. But at the same time, man, sleep is an extremely important thing. I want to take as many steps as I possibly can to be able to have the best sleep possible, right? So you put the little Illumable thing in there, and it lights up your toilet, and then it changes colors as it goes. It's kind of fun, kind of funny, but it's awesome. You at 10 o'clock at night, and you go to the bathroom before you go to bed or whatever. You don't have to turn the lights on and get that like, oh my God, my eyes. You just can go to the bathroom because the nightlight is already in there. I can also see some benefit from it. Like if you had a little kid, like a little boy who was trying to learn how to hit the right spot, and he doesn't have the greatest aim yet, I can see how that could be a thing. But for me, it's the circadian rhythm thing. Same thing with the glasses, same thing with the Illumable. That's why we did it. That's why we got it. And neither of them are expensive, so it's kind of like. But a lot of people think that it was just a gag gift that we went ahead and used. No, I really enjoy it. I think everybody should get one. We can Illumable everybody, but today, the presentation today, that was a little bit of an offshoot just because I forgot to take my glasses off. But the presentation today, and we're a little bit off from everything else, but it's taking it personal. I just seen so much of this on the internet, that in real life too, and it's nothing new. It's not like a new thing. People are trying to make it sound like this is a new thing because of social media. I love the blame that social media gets for everything. The Mark Zuckerberg thing just blows my mind that he's getting grilled by a bunch of politicians that are part of a government that is repeatedly violated your privacy, and then they want to lecture him on doing the same, on perhaps doing the same thing, especially when you opt into this thing. You don't necessarily choose where you were born, but you sure as shit can choose whether you're on Facebook or not. Anyway, so this presentation on taking it personal. There's this thing that I do on social media every once in a while. I find it when people take things personal, I find it super interesting. Like when they get really upset over somebody disagreeing with them, or they get really upset over just really funny things. And I'm not saying that I haven't done it before, because I've definitely made errors in that. But I think people don't really recognize them that as errors. I think like when people take it personal, they're like, well, why wouldn't I get upset? And it's like, why would you get upset? So that's what we're going to go over today. And one of the things that, because I'm such a weirdo that I'll do on social media every once in a while, is I'll go and I'll do a sort of like social test. I just, it's nothing that's going to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that, but all I'll do, and it's kind of maybe it's a little bit of a jerk thing, but I just find it like outrageously interesting. Brent Ham, dude, you got to stop down sometime. I haven't seen you in forever. But I do this thing where in the comment section or in a reply or something like that, I'll just randomly write LOL. Like, no emotion, no nothing. I'm just wondering, I just put the ball in their court and see what they're going to do with it. And I find it really interesting. So I'll just write LOL. So I put the ball in their court as to whether they're going to go and freak out thinking that I'm laughing at them, or whether they're going to be like, oh, he thinks it's funny, or, I'm just letting them, like, am I laughing at them, or am I laughing with them, or what am I doing? And I think, yeah, you like that. But I think it's just super, super, super interesting. And it's interesting to see what happens. One time this guy got so mad at me, and I found out later, down in the comment section, somebody else wrote in, anyway, he got so mad at me, and I took it as like this opportunity where I was like, I wonder if I can get him to switch or if he can switch his mind around. Because I'm not going to take responsibility for his thoughts, feelings, actions, behaviors. Yes, there's this thing, somebody challenged me on this the other day. They're like I see a separation, and I see like that we're all one. Like if you want to get into that existential conversation sometime, I can talk about that a lot. But I see there's both sides of a coin there. If you stand on the edge, you can see both. You can see how we're separate in our responsibilities, and you can see how we're one within our spirituality. But it was interesting to see, and I found out later that someone else joined the conversation. They're like, well, this person isn't a dummy. They work at NASA as an engineer. And I was like, well, just because you're smart doesn't mean that you can't get upset. So this is another thing. Education, being intelligent and being smart are not the same things. Being educated and being wise aren't the same things. Having tons of knowledge and being intelligent are not the same things. I define intelligence as the ability to understand multiple perspectives and hold in your mind at once. How do you take two different perspectives and you hold them in your mind at the same time? That's intelligence to me. And the number of times that you can do that, the amount of perspectives that you can acquire, the more intelligent you do become. This is a practice. I don't just do this naturally. You saw yesterday on the show, Rachel just does this. I don't know how she does this, but she just does this. She's just an insane, intelligent person. I have to work pretty hard to be able to do this. But I work at it. Most people, they just don't even ever acknowledge that there could be a different perspective, that there's not even an option. But this person got so mad at me, and I was like, I wonder if I can help, if I could get him to reframe his perspective. So I talked with him for a while. We got into, and I thought we had really made progress, and really, like, I just wrote LOL. And I even explained to him that at one point. I was like, dude, I just wrote LOL. I wasn't really laughing. I wasn't really not laughing. He thought that I was baiting him. And in the end, I was kind of like, and then he turned the tables, and I thought we were moving somewhere, and then finally he just like blew into me. He's like, you were totally baiting me, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I wasn't baiting you into anything. And if I was, you definitely took the bait, dude, which I was not. I was not at all. But there, like, smart does not equal logical or reasonable. Smart people can be sold on really bad ideas. Like, I don't consider myself outrageously intelligent or smart, but I am an extremely educated person. By educated, I don't mean like tons and tons and tons of college. I don't mean that I have a PhD in anything. I mean that I have studied and studied and studied and studied and studied and studied on 3 different subjects. And the biggest one is health. Your exercise, your nutrition, your mindset, your recovery. I've tons of money, tons of hours, tons of effort, tons of coaches. I mean, just like so much effort into learning everything I possibly could about that. And then tons of work into the same thing with relationships. And since since 2014, I had to take a really hard look at how many people were actually able to have a positive effect on from Grit Gym, and I had to be like, well, we're only helping the people that we're working with. What if we could help more people by getting them in here? So I had to look more at like the marketing and the business side of things and the money side of things so that Grit Gym could stay stable. Because at that point I had a real hard realization, it was smack dab in my face that we had 4 employees at the time. And I was like, oh my God, like if I don't get this done, they lose their paycheck. They lose their ability to support their family. They could lose their, whatever. And I was like, I've got to go out and get this done. And it just wasn't me anymore. I had Rachel, I had 4 employees, I had their spouses and their kids, where I was just like, oh my God, I have to know this stuff. So I started learning about wealth too. But those are just the 3 subjects. That's basically what I do. I like book, coach, conference, information product, whatever it is, that one, on health, and then on relationships, and then on wealth, and then I go back through and I just keep on cycling those through, and I just keep on learning and learning and learning and learning and learning. And to me, ask Rachel, ask Amber, they'll tell you the exact same thing. Like, to me, you spend your last dollars, you spend your last dimes, you spend every penny, you go broke, you go into debt, a massive, massive debt to know everything there is about life. Every single thing that there is about life, you go and you spend as much money as you possibly can on learning that stuff. It is just so important. And so that's what I do. I just basically go broke all the time learning about this stuff. But anyway, most people that I go through this kind of stuff with, like the social media thing and different interactions, I rarely see somebody that isn't, like, when they're confused about something, or when they take something, or when they get upset, when they take it personal. Almost everybody is lacking at least one of these variables. They either lack wisdom, they lack knowledge, they lack logic, they lack reason, they lack intelligence. And like I said before, my definition of intelligence is the ability to understand multiple perspectives and hold, the ability to understand many perspectives, and then to hold multiple perspectives in your mind at one time. Knowledge is just education. It's just pouring information in. Wisdom comes later, like from experience, and from the knowledge that you do get. Logic and reason, I think that is like a muscle that you have to turn over and over again. Logic and reason is a matter of analysis. And you have somebody like me that is extremely analytical and very, very, very curious. I definitely didn't get the status quo lesson on curiosity, that you're not supposed to be curious. You're not supposed to ask questions. You're not supposed to, because I asked tons of questions. I'm skeptical of everything. We got into a conversation this weekend where I was like, dude, like someone was trying to throw this ISIS thing down my throat, tell me everything about ISIS, and I was like, dude, I don't even know if it's real. I question all of it. I question everything that I hear from the media, every single thing. Like, I'm a skeptic to it. I have no idea. I ultimately do not know. Like, the only thing that I absolutely know for absolute certain is that I do not know. That's the only thing that I can really hold on to. I can make really educated guesses. I can make assumptions, but I don't want to. I ultimately do not know. But knowledge isn't about being smart. It's about education, and the medium by which this is learned matters. So if you are a PhD in math, you have tons of education around math, you might not have much knowledge around relationships or health or wealth or time or anything like that. So like a college professor that hates on capitalism, but knows a ton about writing, let's say, they have a PhD in I don't know, so like English. Well, this person it might is going to base their views on that, and they might not know much about capitalism, so they might hate on capitalism, but it's a lack of knowledge, right? So, and all of us are going to come down to have some sort of lack anyway. But anyway, that was going down the wrong rabbit hole. And at Grit Gym, one of the things, like with taking it personal, if you can't take it or give a joke at Grit Gym, you're kind of a really tough time here. It's a constant give and take from everybody, and it's all meant in good fun. No one, like, we've had a few people take things personal, every great once in a while, like maybe once a year. But it's amazing when it happens. I find it so interesting when people, when they lay on their horn because you didn't get going right away from a stoplight. It's like, or they get really mad in their car. But like, if you think about it logically, there's no amount of anger that could get the cars to move faster in front of you. It's just you getting angry. We had somebody at the gym once. Eric and I both. She made a joke, and Eric and I both laughed at the joke, and a couple other people were there. They laughed too, and she asked if we were going to keep on making fun of her. And it was kind of a weird scenario because we were like, wait, what's going on here? She took it really personal that everybody laughed at her joke. It's fascinating stuff. Like, how do you go there in your mind? This was an extremely educated person, a very, very, very educated person. How do you laugh? How do you take it personal when someone's laughing at your joke? Well, I've done this too before, because one time in my early 20s, I was dating this girl, and I got upset that she went and got me a glass of water. But the thing is, if you're not deserving of like, let's say if you're not lovable, it's really hard to love, right? If you can't love, you're not lovable. If you think that you don't deserve your joke to be laughed at, you're gonna be like, why are they laughing at my joke? You get what I'm saying? So it's an interesting thing. Another one that's really interesting is when the University of Iowa football team loses and the hardcore fans are sad for a week. Like, wow, like, or when it's raining and you're sad. It's like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't make any logical sense. Somewhere along the line, that idea got put into your mind that it's okay to be depressed when it's sad. Well, we got to get to what's depression mean, and we got to ask, like, how are you feeling the word container, the container labeled sad? Because I don't think sad is necessarily a negative emotion. I think it's a very, very powerful emotion. If you can't grieve, you're going to have a really tough time bonding with anybody. If you can't grieve the end of a relationship, then it's going to be really hard. It's going to be very, very difficult to bond on the other side of the relationship, because people attach and they separate very well. They don't grieve and they don't bond very well, because these are very, very much not status quo things that are very scary. But what you believe you deserve is usually what you're going to get. You might stumble upon and something else happens, but if you believe yourself to be very, very rich, you're probably going to get a lot of money. If you believe you deserve very great health, like, you're probably going to find a way. If you think that you can't, you probably can't. If you think that you can, you're probably more likely to be able to. If you find yourself not good enough, anything will be grounds for reacting as such. So if I think that I'm not good enough for someone to bring me a glass of water, or to be cared for, or to take that, I'm going to go, why are you doing that? What do you want? Why'd you do that? Why would you give me a glass of water? That's what someone would do. But if they think like, oh, thank you for getting me a glass of water, it was nice of you, I deserve this, then you're more likely to just accept with grace. But people are running from a program they're convinced of, and it's the only one. They're convinced that it's the only one, and that it's real, but it's not real. You can make up whatever story you want. Alan Watts has a really interesting take on this. If you listen to his stuff, he's one of the first guys that kind of the East versus the West, right? So you've got the Eastern philosophy he tries to merge it with Western philosophy. So like Eastern, I don't need to get into all that, but he has this thing where he says, imagine what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. And now imagine what it was like waking up as if never being asleep. And one was birth, and he was trying to depict birth, and he was trying to depict death. He's like, where do you go in the between? And then he goes, if there was infinite number of dreams, and every time that you went to sleep, you got to create your own dream. You were just the creator, and you got to create your own dream over and over, infinite number. Well, eventually you would create little things to forget that you were the creator. You'd program away forget that you were a bend in the river, so that you'd have a surprise, so that you'd have something fun, because there's only so many times that you can kill the dragon and save the damsel in distress and win the day. So you'd program in these ways to have a surprise, to have some excitement into the dream. And if there's infinite, then eventually you would dream the dream that you're living right now. The dream that you are actually, the story that you are living right now, you would be living that dream that you had unacknowledged, that you are the creator of that dream. I always thought that was a really interesting idea to contemplate, especially after the movie Inception came out. And it's pretty cool. It's a good idea. I don't see any glaring negatives in it. What if you are the creator, and what if letting go of the idea that you have to create is a very good thing? Letting go of that control, to the control of your environment. Not necessarily that control doesn't have a place. I think it does, but the people that tend to reach for the most control are the ones that are the most scared. And I get put that label put on me sometimes at the gym that I'm a control freak. I'm not really a control freak. I do that for your safety. So if you're doing something that might get you hurt, I'm going to ask you to stop. People call me a control freak for that, but it's like, no, we don't put dumbbells on the bench because the dumbbell might roll off and take off one of your toes. That's not a control thing. That's for your safety. There's other things around the gym too, the little safety things like that, but it's always a safety thing, almost always a safety thing for me. But what you believe yourself to deserve, I think this is where taking it personal really comes from, is that fear of not being enough. If you don't believe that you deserve it, if you don't think that you're enough to be cared for, if you don't think that you're enough to be loved, if you don't think that you're enough for good health, if you don't think that you're enough to put for the effort that it's going to take to get there, if you don't think you're enough to pull it off, you will find a way to take it personal. You see this with the victim mindset, where it's like they have to place blame. If you're the victim, well, you can't also be the perpetrator, not in the victim mindset, but you are. The victim is always the perpetrator of their own victimization. I'm not saying that there's not real victims in the world, because every time that I've said that, somebody chimes in and says how that's not accurate. Well, show me a time that it isn't, and I'll show you a real victim. Show me all the other ones, and that's a person that is they're the victim and the perpetrator at the same time. But taking it personal is definitely a victim mindset. Like, how could this be happening to me? Getting upset because somebody brings you a glass of water is really, really silly. Making a joke and then getting upset because people laughed at it is really, really silly. Having a bad day because the weather's not nice is pretty silly. Having a bad day because your team didn't win, well, it's not your team. It's just the team that you root for. And it's totally silly. So I do find this extremely interesting. My little LOL experiment. Why do I do it? I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm an insanely curious person. I don't think it's hurting anybody. What does this experiment do? It probably does nothing. It's just me messing around. But I don't think there's a problem with social media. I think social media is unveiling a certain amount of this stuff, and it's very, very good for us, especially if we can take that hard look in the mirror and really look at ourselves and see how much responsibility we can put on ourselves. Because the more responsibility that you take upon yourself, the more power that you actually get. Even if somebody ran into you with a car, well, you did buy that car. You might not have made them run into you, but you did buy that car. So on some level, you have to take the responsibility for buying that car, which then in turn was the only way. If you never wanted to have anybody run into your car, never own a car, right? Like, that's the level, like, weird level of responsibility that I'm talking about. If somebody punches you in the face, you shouldn't say, "Why did you punch me in the face?" You say, "Why did I let them punch me in the face?" There's a big difference there. Why did I allow that? You know, as much responsibility as you can possibly put on yourself is powerful, is extremely, extremely powerful. And I think a lot of our stuff here is a lot about that. With the health thing, the more, like, you are not health, if you are in poor health, it's not McDonald's fault. If you sat around and ate McDonald's every day for the past 30 years, you are the one that chose to go to McDonald's. I'm not saying that there might not have been other circumstances, I don't know, but you make the decision. The more power that you put on you, the more responsibility that you put on you, the more power that you have, because now you're steering the wheel. You can decide. Remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I know that sounds a little cliche, but it's a powerful statement. Anyway, this is blank wall behind me. It looks like it's going off into the distance nowhere. This will be the end of the show, but pretty soon we'll have the shelves up and we'll have everything going and everything will look really nice in the background. Tomorrow, it's the Eric and Adam. It's Eric and Adam show. I don't know really. If you guys have a suggestion on what it should be called, please put that down in the comment section below, because I'd love to come up with a good, maybe it should be the Move Strong podcast. I don't know, the video podcast, Move Strong video podcast or something like that. Amber came up with those little faces for it, which are really good. But anyway, thanks for being here, guys. Really appreciate it. Please slap the share button. I'm always excited to come on these and talk to you, whether there's coffee involved or not. But taking it personal, it's always going to be a silly thing. There's a time. There's not going to be a time where it makes logical, reasonable, educated, intelligence, wise sense to take it personal. It never makes sense, and it's it can be justified. Anything can be justified, but it'll always be silly. Anyway, tomorrow, 12:30. Hope that you guys are there. Please slap the share button, send this out to everybody you know. I really appreciate it. We'll see you soon.